Priefert Roping Chutes, tested, proven, and trusted for over 20 years.
It is really hard to believe that it's been 20 years since we put that roping chute on the market. It's been a surprising 20 years. David Bynum, my brother-in-law, our sales manager at the time for 25 years, was into roping very strong. It was his favorite sport. And his kids were getting old enough for roping. So David showed me a makeshift roping chute at somebody's place. I'm not quite sure where it was.
So we had a neighbor live down here south of what's the airport now and what was the John B. Stevens place, Bud Wright, and his son Rusty qualified to go to the NFR twice. And they had rigged up one of Marvin's original silver head gates on the end of an alley, put a gate back behind it, and that's what they roped out of. I'd go down there and rope with them now and then. That's what they roped out of. So what we'd do is put them behind that head gate and stick a post behind them so they couldn't back up too far and let them out. You could shut it before the next one could jump the post and get in there. Bill watched us and he said, well, why don't you build a roping chute? I said, well, gosh, I don't know, Bill. I don't think there's much volume in that. There's already several people. He said, I don't matter, build one anyway. I said, all right, well, let's think about it for a while.
I know we didn't expect a lot of volume. Why we actually got into it, well, it's because David was interested in the sport. And he was dissatisfied with the chutes that were available. So I told him, even if there's not a lot of volume, go ahead and design one. And we'll build it, see what happens.
I had 3 kids by then that were rodeoing. Every weekend we went to a rodeo. So we studied all the roping chutes in East Texas, and they all had the same problem. They were, I'm gonna say, 10 to 12 feet long, almost 3 feet wide. A big steer could turn around in it. You had to climb on top of it to operate it. Couldn't do it from the ground, it just wouldn't work. And at a roping, you couldn't keep the steers forward. And at a practice pen, you really couldn't because, so I started studying it, and finally I got with the fab guys, and the bow frame that's on the end of this roping chute now on the back end was the bow frame for our old blue head gate that we had made for years. I said, that's the perfect size for the ends. So we put them on both ends, and they built one, and I was gone somewhere, and I came back and they had put it together and painted it. And Bill said, well, they got that roping chute painted. He said, well, I don't think it's big enough. And I said, let's go look at it. And so we stepped out there and looked at it, and I said, no, Bill, it's a perfect size. Well, I don't think it's big enough. I said, well, but just a few minutes later, Bud Wright walks in, Rusty's dad, and I said, Bud, come out here and look at this. I want your opinion. What you think of this? And he went and looked, he said, man, that's perfect. I said, well, Bill thinks it's too small. And he said, no, you don't want any bigger than that. And it was the size that the roping chute is today. That was the first one. It had a kind of a awkward operator on the top that was a little bit hard to cock from the ground, but you could. The original tailgate was on a pivot system where it sat over in the chute. You pulled on it, it raised up and set outside. So it gave a good wide open clear to get a cow in it, which was a good thing. The problem was that gate opened out into either the heading box or the heeling box. It worked, and it worked well, but it was in the way. Our recocking device on the front gate wasn't exactly what I wanted, and so I wanted to redo it and do the front gate. So I got them to get one in there, and we started rebuilding it and got it all put together. What ultimately was the 98 model chute. Had a new split, a tailgate that pivoted out like it does, very similar to what it does now, and basically the same actuator as is on the front gate today. And we had taken it over to the house and roped in it, and it worked great. Was really excited about it. So we had taken it back to the shop, and Gary and them had built jigs for it, but we had never built one except that one.
I'm Denny Gentry with the World Series of Team Roping, and I started USTRC, United States Team Roping Championship, back in '90. And that was when I first met up with the Priefert people. It was kind of an interesting story in itself. I had a group of partners, and we were putting together a new company called Equibrand Corporation, and Priefert Manufacturing was selected as one of the companies we were going to try to buy. So my first introduction to Bill Priefert and the Priefert gang was there as buyers to buy the company. And of course we were told immediately that the family operation was not for sale. And during that visit, had one of the gentlemen there at the company showed me a roping chute.
Denny got there and I said, Denny, come back here, I want to show you something. I had met Denny through ropings, and anyway. So we went back there and I showed him that chute, and Denny kind of walked around it and looked at it a little bit and didn't say much. And in a minute he said, it's the best chute I've ever seen. And I said, wow.
And what I liked about it when we first saw it was it eliminated a lot of the problems we were seeing. And the mechanism looked like it was something that could hold up over a long period of time. And I mean, it was well thought out. I mean, this thing was not, they said it was a prototype, but it looked like a lot more than prototype, because to me a prototype is something that you're going to make lots of changes to. This was ready to go on the spot. It was ready to come in the market, pretty close to what they've got now. A few modifications, but it was pretty close to complete.
So that was on a Tuesday. Sunday night, Denny calls me at home and said, can you get me 3 of those to Albuquerque by Thursday evening? I said, Denny, I don't know. You've seen the only one that's been made. I said, but I'll go ask them in the morning. So I went in the morning and got Bill and talked to him about it, and I said, this is the second largest roping at that time in the world, only after the USTRC finals. And they want 3 roping chutes. They're going to set up 3 arenas in Albuquerque for the Western Regionals. Bill said, well, let's go talk to Gary Fagg and see if they can do it. So we go out there and he tells Gary Fagg that, and he said, yeah, we can do it. And I said, well, wait a minute. I think we should take 5 of them, because we're going to Albuquerque. We know it works good, but it's not been tested for durability.
My thought immediately when I saw the chute was, this would be fabulous if we could have 3 of these, 3 of the same exact types of chutes in Albuquerque. And so I asked the question. I didn't think that I would get an affirmative answer, but I asked the question, and they did. They were able to, within 3 to 4 days, have 3 chutes there, and backup chutes, I'm sure, on site, and we've never changed since then.
You know, that success in that roping, the first time with 3 arenas, and how well it worked, really opened Denny's eyes to what we had. Yeah, maybe more than he'd seen before, but Denny's pretty perceptive if you know him, and when he says, best roping chute I ever saw, if I won't give you the big head, you can't get one. But in that process then, you know, was no question in his mind it's what he would use at Oklahoma City that year.
From the very first day that we saw the chute, it was probably the most functional mechanically, on the head gates, on the mechanism, on the rear gates, on all of this that we had ever seen, because from its design, it was something that we knew could hold up through tens of thousands of runs, which is what we were doing at that time. We were not necessarily thinking about the practice arena situation. We were thinking about our own situation, which was 1,000 runs a day, multiple days, in the course of a year, 20 to 30,000 runs through a chute. And on the basis of that, we were impressed, and our impression was correct, because that chute has done everything that was asked of it and more, and has had very few tweaks over the years.
You know, for me, thinking back on this deal, and they were talking about doing a 20th anniversary deal on the roping chute, and I said, really? You sure it's been 20 years? And then I get thinking, well, that was in '98 when we came out with it. That's where it got its name. And this is 18. You know, that's pretty phenomenal. It's pretty phenomenal Priefert's has managed to keep this thing new and progressive, but that's vintage Bill Priefert. He's never satisfied with anything until he's made it better. And I think they've done a marvelous job of doing that from that first simple chute we built.
Now, after 20 years, the Priefert Roping Chute is very tested, proven, and trusted. It's trusted to go on live TV, national TV market, trusted not to break down. And we've had thousands and thousands of head run through individual chutes. They're made to last.